Hidetaka Miyazaki is one of the most impactful game designers of this century, and in a 2010 Eurogamer interview, he describes what inspired the design of the multiplayer system in Demon's Souls, first of its name, what laid the foundation for the future. He recounts the story of his car getting stuck on a hillside after a heavy snowfall. Then the car behind him also got stuck. But then a driver farther back started bumping into them both, and then they pushed each other up the hill. Miyazaki was clear from the snow, and he could safely drive home. He couldn't get out of his vehicle and say thanks to these other drivers. He just had to keep going. He says on his drive home, quote, "I wondered whether the last people in the line had made it home, and thought I would probably never meet the people who had helped me. I thought that maybe if we'd met in another place, we'd become friends. Or maybe we'd just fight. You could probably call it a connection of mutual assistance between transient people." This interview is one of my favorites because of the honesty and vulnerability. Miyazaki shows how feelings and experiences shape game design, and in turn, what new experiences and feelings a player might encounter. In the Soulsborne games, you can call upon an oddly named stranger to help you overcome your metaphorical snowstorm. But when that challenge is overcome, the stranger leaves. All that triumph ends in an unspoken goodbye. You keep trudging forward, like Miyazaki. But what if the stranger who helped you doesn't disappear back into the snow? I've realized that one of my favorite sequences of Elden Ring may not have been experienced by most. In the Weeping Peninsula, when the road to Castle Morn opens up and you can see the structure looming in the distance, and then the earth-shattering arrows of a golem begin assailing you, so you need to make your mad dash to... And I think this is such a moment for me because you're running on foot here. You don't get torrent when you experience the world cooperatively. My connection to my loyal spectral buffalo is ephemeral. We hardly know each other. Walking everywhere in Elden Ring gives me an appreciation for the physicality and scale of the world. There is simply a lot more willingness to explore every nook and cranny, of stopping and admiring the view, of engaging with almost every encounter, and plenty of running around. The trek to the castle, dashing between ruins and stone with your stalwart friend, I realize may have been a less traveled experience, because this is all replaced with a horseback ride if you venture through Limgrave alone. The cooperative play of Elden Ring brings a whole host of alterations to systems and design. You cannot rest at a grace the same, so your build focuses on becoming more resilient with higher levels of sustain. Your flasks are halved as well in a stranger's world, so having 1 flask of mana becomes 0 mana, and thus you shift your combat strategies to be more evenly divided or more highly focused on a particular weapon or skill or strategy. And dying becomes a particular setback, but only really in your own world, so you might be more reckless as a distraction when you're helping your friend. Status effects also just become infinitely more annoying because you can't cleanse them by resting at grace. So faith also then suddenly becomes a lot more better than it already is, as you have access to many group healing and cleansing spells. And then also, because of this, focusing on just big unbuffed damage becomes a really great advantage, because unga bunga, you pay attention to Erdtree leaves and never to Roa fruit. You have to beat every boss twice. Boss strategies that might work solo aren't always going to be successful now. You might have to approach a boss differently when you're the host versus the summoned companion. And now you have to deal with invasions can happen everywhere and sometimes just sideline an evening of adventure. And they imbue this world with a sense of liveliness and unpredictability. The dimensions of play could always change. In our second playthrough, we farmed invaders in Lernia because everyone looked for an easy way to get to the DLC. And so questing that requires a lot of fast travel and ping-ponging over the map just isn't as feasible or fun or easy to follow or experience. Fog walls also make you more aware of the world's confines and divisions. Mines, dungeons, and caves become a lot less compelling as they require the hurdling of desummoning and resummoning and summoning this and summoning that. You also roam a lot of the world in your own timeline and then again in someone else's. There might be slight differences, and you might also see things differently. And believe it or not, even with 2 pairs of eyes instead of 1, the lands between still held secrets from us, and it still does. Not Every trend in gaming is positive. If you've ever looked for online co-op games that aren't indie games or live service nonsense, you'll know that it's a small circle of titles. That club gets even smaller when you look for games that have an impact on gameplay design based on the amount of players. And so I never thought I'd be saying this because these studios in the zeitgeist seem so diametrically opposed, but Wildlands by Ubisoft and Elden Ring do have some great things in common. Playing Wildlands changes the experiences and the systems when you do it cooperatively. Sync shots immediately become unavailable to you when your friend joins, as coordinating attacks now becomes a thing you have to, well, coordinate. And you can't just push a button to direct NPCs. Baldur's Gate 3 and Divinity Original Sin 2 by Larian Studios are other clear examples. You could play these solo, but cooperative play transforms the dynamics of the systems of your party, your interactivity with your narrative, plussing and minusing different companions. Your party composition could totally change. You could play Baldur's Gate 3 and have no companions with you as you're venturing through. And so non-live service AAA games where you can trudge alone or with a friend are such rare and weird creatures in the landscape of gaming. Especially so when the game adapts to the number of players. But even still, what makes Elden Ring so wholly unique is the diegetic in-game way you summon a friend. There's no out-of-game invite. You are using some alchemical item crafted from tree leaves. The game is designed towards transience, but you can still brute force it to play it like its peers. So it's no surprise the most popular mods for Elden Ring and other From Software Souls games are about changing this transience to permanence, to making the co-op more seamless. And part of me wonders if that moves the idea even farther from the car in the snow. But really, this idea of transience in game design is challenged as soon as you light your metaphorical beacon for the same quirky companion you've summoned the past 100 times. I find it endlessly amusing my friend's character is writing with a waxed finger cookie onto the metaphorical earth as his call sign. So these co-op mods to me actually just formalize the change in the feeling when experiencing Elden Ring with friends. If a largely single-player experience of Elden Ring is an isolating journey with hardship, death, overcoming great odds alone, and somehow like a pilgrimage with each step, each death, and each swing of your sword, then the cooperative experience of Elden Ring is actually more like a romp through the post-apocalypse wasteland, where the loneliness and isolation is replaced with adventure and connection and heroism. There is silliness when you get invaded by a meme recusant, or rescued by hunters with names that sound like your 80-year-old neighbor. There's laughter and sudden one-hit kills that might have been frustrating when playing alone. But also, overcoming these great difficulties together creates this stronger shared experience. I didn't defeat Margit, we defeated him. So while the stranger never disappearing back into the snow might not be how elitists or Miyazaki or whoever intended these games to be played or feel how they should be played, what it enables is for an entirely new and unforgettable experience. Because we don't have open world games you can play cooperatively that aren't live service nonsense or MMOs. We don't have discrete, cooperative, heroic experiences with exploration and combat and a feeling of shared adventure in a beginning, middle, and an end. Because while there's an undeniably powerful emotional experience in the fleetingness of the stranger who helps you, there's something equally compelling about coming to the aid of a friend.
And Rohan will answer.
Even though I played through almost all of Elden Ring cooperatively, I didn't play it with two friends, two strangers helping you out of the snowbank, where the systems of Elden Ring and its design likely have a third or fourth interpretation. I'll leave those reflections for someone else who had that gameplay experience. My friend and I still had our person we couldn't say goodbye to. Instead of Miyazaki's introspection, we had constant conversation. Christopher Childs. He came to our aid. Twice. Everyone has a boss that frustrates them in these games, and in our first playthrough, Estelle, natural born of the void at the bottom of the lake of rot, was ours. Would we have been real-life friends with Christopher Childs, the man who helped us both? Or would we have been enemies? The memory of him lives on because of this incredible impact and its impermanence. All of our experiences with Christopher lasted no more than an hour, yet somehow we remember it and we remember him. Realizing now, Miyazaki's interview is describing a Japanese feeling called mono no oware, the bitter, sweet feeling of the fleetingness of life, like the last summer of high school, like a cherry blossom in spring. And so now we beat our chest after every boss fight ever since, because Christopher did that. So we do that still, to honor him. He's our stranger in the snow.